let's get into it. Let's review Scott Pilgrim, Volume 1. The first out of 6 volumes. I've got quite a few notes, so I hope you're ready for that. I will do a quick spoiler free addressing the issue. I'm going to get into the book very detailed. I'll try not to ruin anything, but for the first part, you should definitely read it. It is the epitome of a great comic story. If you hear people saying, because comics, this is the reason why they say that. Things you can't see in movies, TV, they try to do that with CG, I'm sure, but this story exists in that plateau. Before we get into this discussion, throw some comments down below what you think. If you're reading it right now, if you're reading the color version, I've only got the black and white version right now. I haven't necessarily checked out the colored version. I think I will check into it just real quick, see if it's something worth checking out, if it's different or if it's just plainly colored. So with that being said, yes, you should definitely be reading Scott Pilgrim. The comic series differentiates from the movie just a little bit. Not just a little bit, a lot of it. So you're going to be following the same story for so long, and then it splits off and they go their separate ways. So if you've only seen the movie, definitely check out the comic. I think Scott Pilgrim is a perfect opportunity for new readers. It's got a simple design. It's got a kind of a fast and loose style to it as well. What's that mean to you? It fills the gap where everything is explained. Like, that is your very basic comic structure, newbie style of comics, where they explain everything, don't leave anything open to interpretation, stuff like that. And then it goes all the way to the extreme side of that, where everything's open to interpretation. You can take what you want from it. I love it because just on the cusp of, it doesn't explain everything to you, and it gives you enough stuff just to open wide, so you can get out of it what you want. I kind of equate it to the Star Wars versus the prequels. The first trilogy of Star Wars, episode 4 through 6, kind of a simple, straight narrative. You know what's happening, you know why it's happening. Everything's laid out in very great detail. Whereas when you go to the prequels, this is not a vote for the prequels. I'm merely explaining. But there's so much left to open to interpretation. I saw a couple videos recently about a guy explaining that maybe it wasn't a love story between Padme and Anakin, because when they meet, they're very different ages, and it would be weird if they fell for each other. But it's necessarily a story between Obi-Wan and Padme, which makes the Star Wars universe so much more incredible just for me. For that plot point alone, it makes me want to look into these prequels more. Look at the triangle they forced on themselves, between Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme, which makes it even more incredible because this whole time you're thought to believe that Luke and Leia are Anakin's children, but what if they were actually Obi-Wan's? And that leaves seven open to open interpretation. That what if, what's her name? Oh, that means Rey could also be a Kenobi. I always figured the whole Star Wars universe was following this one family. But if Luke and Leia are Kenobis, well, that means it's a Kenobi family-like story. The problem with this is, now that they've opened the third trilogy open to other writers, other directors, they can put their own mark on it. They can interpret the story how they want, it's not as clear cut as it used to be. This is definitely a fantasy story. I will throw links to the Star Wars videos down below. You can see what I mean. It will give you something to digest. Before seeing those videos, I was definitely like on the fence if I wanted to continue watching the Star Wars movies, but that was like, maybe there's something more to this universe that I didn't necessarily pick up on. So, Scott Pilgrim is a fantasy story from the get-go. You're introduced to the characters right from the get-go. Simple design lends itself well to that. It's easy to follow along in this wonderfully woven and discovered world. There is some awesome labeling that this story does. If you've seen the movie, you've also seen this where they go out through Scott and Wallace's room, and they describe like whose stuff is what, and it shows Scott Pilgrim as this lazier bum. You can see this really cute design, like really easy, simple lines, and like it's just so easy to follow along with. It doesn't just put you in this world, but it also immerses you in it. The simplicity also gives the story a look for creators to think anyone that can do this. When you see these lines, it's easy to think that you can do this too, and making simple designs, telling your story the way you want to tell it, like, it's easy to do that. And it even adds this song element, like you can play it along with them. I thought that was really cool. This is the only one in the first issue. There's sloppy lines, it's easy design, like, it kind of just wants to break its own rules, which is awesome. I love that. Here you can see where like the lines are breaking the lines, and like I didn't notice that until this last read through, and was like, what? You can do that? Like, you can just make the design what you want it to, and like that was such a big off my chest release. Like, look at the scribbled drawings in this real comic, like that's been turned into a movie. Like, you can obviously do this too. Like, the only thing stopping you is yourself. Like, look, just basically stick figures. So that makes me love this book. Even it shows off a very unnoticeable design that breaks many different rules, and just has fun. Like I was showing you, the line breaking, the lines. Let's see. This very simple style of gray tone, where you have black, white, and then like some gray, like I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but like stippling effect. Very few books are able to pull it off as well as I noticed this one is able to do it. It also is not afraid to break the rules. One of the rules I've learned along this path of making comics is the fact that you should only have like 2 sentences in a speech bubble. That's more than 2 sentences, and it just works so well. It's basically like the Clerks of comics. There's plenty of dialogue and stuff, but like you can see on her pants where they do the different stippling, and they still have a gray tone, and it just looks phenomenal on the book. Once you get so far into the book, you're able to see these little side jokes, like, let's see if I will pick it up. On the amp there it says lame brand, not name brand, not a name brand, but lame brand, and I thought that was hilarious. One of my favorite inside jokes that I noticed, and this is from Torthina and Alon's review of the volume 1. I will link that down below as well. But Alan, being from England, showed off
the bit where Scott is trying to describe to Wallace Ramona in the party, and he's describing her hauntingly weird shoes. And like, I'm with Wallace going, what are you on about? And he's trying to describe them. It's like they look uncomfortable, and he's like, just draw them. And he drew the shoes, and he showed them. And then Wallace is looking at this picture of the shoes, and there's like three panels where he's just looking at the shoes, and he goes, "Those are Mr. Silly's shoes."
Ramona's shoes. Now in the movie, it's portrayed that Ramona has this crazy hair.
Pretty much I do.
You know this one girl with hair like this?
Yes, that's Ramona
And
Flowers.
that's how Scott walks up to talk to her. But she says she got these shoes in England, and they seem to know.
He's wearing Mr. Silly's shoes, and I'm howling. And I thought that was the greatest thing ever.
Design of the shoe is from, and he draws them for his roommate Wallace, and he's like, well, those are Mr. Silly shoes. I'll throw a picture of Mr. Silly right now so you know what I'm talking about. And like, when I noticed that, like, if I would have had been drinking a drink, it would have came out my nose because I was laughing that hard. I love the little foreshadowing. He's like, that's a story for volume 3. I'm looking forward to getting that part, and I'll be like, oh yeah, call back to issue 1. Back when he receives his letter for the battle versus the 7 X's. In the book, it comes via snare mail, which this was written in, let me see if I can find it real quick, 2004. So email wasn't a huge thing back then, but in the movie it shows them getting an email. Just little things like that. Another great part of this book is when they're getting ready for their first concert, the person that plays before them actually plays a song that knocks everybody in the audience out. When they do that, it allows this open play center so that Scott Pilgrim and this first X can have their fight. And that's the first volume. It's very entertaining. A lot of inside stuff. A lot of just off the wall, ridiculous stuff happens. So much fun. Definitely worth checking out. If you can find 1 through 6, check these out. I will be doing a review of volume 2 very soon. But next, you'll see a review of Berserk #1. This is easily my favorite series that I've ever read, that I'm still following to this day. So be looking forward to that review. If you want to check out Berserk, I will leave links down below to read the first volume so you can get caught up. So when we have this discussion again, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about and what to prepare for. So thanks for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed Scott Pilgrim. Let me know what you thought down below in the comments. Let's have a conversation about it. If you read the color version, non-color version, let me know your thoughts. Also check out the links down below if you're interested in finding out more about what all this stuff I talked about. I love you guys, and I'll check you out soon. Later.